Good afternoon, everybody. We're going to get started now. I think people have joined and people can join us along the way. And I would ask Patience Gandiwa, Prof. Patience, to begin the proceedings.
Good afternoon to you all. Thank you very much for coming. I would want us to start the meeting. I see we've got a growing number now, around 50 online, which is really good. We know that there are several other engagements that you could be doing, but you have prioritized joining us this afternoon. I think we are so excited that we are at this stage where we are going to today to reflect on what came out of our 25th anniversary for the SADC transfrontier conservation areas, which is a flagship initiative, the way we see it and what we call it in Southern Africa. And Zimbabwe was really honored to be hosting this event in May this year. And we thank you for supporting this event and making it possible. I can see so many familiar names and some familiar faces. It could not have been a success without you. Transfrontier conservation areas by nature, they are about partnerships, they are about people, they are about, exploring the opportunities that an individual country on its own cannot be able to exploit those opportunities. And this 25th anniversary was really a significant milestone, I believe, in the history of TFCAs. I know that we once reflected on the 2013 program, which was the guiding framework. Of course, the TFCA initiative itself had started long before that, but I think it's important to acknowledge that there was a program before adoption of this, the current program that we have for the TFCAs for 2023 to 2033, which is a 10-year guiding framework for which spells out the vision and basically the blueprint of what we seek to achieve through the TFCA program. And there are a number of, I think, milestone achievements in line with the objectives of the TFCA that we can talk about. And a lot was shared during this TFCA conference and summit. And of course, the other statutory meetings that we managed to do during the summit, including the senior officials meeting, as well as the ministers meeting, where a number of important decisions were adopted. And some people say photos or a video, they speak louder and much more better than individual names. I want to request Steve to share with us just a bit a video about the 25th anniversary, so that we all psyched up and we see and it brings us home before we start our meeting. Over to you, Steve.
For 25 years, Transfrontier Conservation Areas, or TFCAs, have come to represent a visionary and deeply inspiring approach to conservation and development in Southern Africa. These breathtaking cross-border protected areas were established in recognition that the vast, untamed natural resources spanning national boundaries are precious, shared treasures, rich in biodiversity and teeming with life, whose survival holds profound significance for both the ecological health of our planet and the socio-economic well-being of rural communities.
there is still a need for us to make sure that we establish more TFCAs in order for our local people to benefit. With the member states committed to the regional integration on TFCAs, this will drive TFCA to grow more within the SADC region.
The robust legal and institutional framework for TFCAs is grounded in several pioneering regional agreements, including the 1999 SADC Protocol on Wildlife Conservation and Law Enforcement, which champions the promotion of conservation of shared wildlife resources through the establishment of TFCAs.
We are gathered here today to celebrate and witness a historic moment in our collaboration for the conservation of our shared natural and cultural heritage.
The 2023 to 2033 SADC program for TFCAs further reaffirms the commitment to nurture these landscapes as practical examples for regional integration, while steadfastly advancing the dignity, resilience, and prosperity of local communities.
For the groups that have come, for the children that have accompanied us, it is a beauty to see you. For what we discuss here is your heritage.
Today, 13 awe-inspiring TFCAs stretch across the SADC region, safeguarding an astonishing diversity of transboundary landscapes and seascapes. Their structures range from the elegantly simple transfrontier parks, like the iconic Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, to vast, intricate mosaics of protected areas, communal lands, and private concessions, exemplified by the magnificent Kavango Zambezi TFCA, a living testament to nature's grandeur and complexity.
Achieving coexistence in these complex landscapes we call TFCAs. You need coordination, collaboration, and understanding. I came to realize how intricately connected the culture of the people can be linked to a river system. People depend on the fisheries, people depend on the flooding pattern for their transportation, for their farming. It's also important for the wildlife habitats.
The management authorities had quite long protocols, and we saw quite a number of illegal activities taking place unchecked. We have structures that provide for joint sensitization of the communities living along the borderline. Now, officers can just cross the boundaries, do the work.
Malawi and Zambia, we work as one. So in one camp, there are two countries.
It's something that we're really proud of. So it's a very exciting thing to be in a landscape that can be, collaboratively managed, as it's the case of the Malawi-Zambia TFCA.
The SADC Tourism Program 2020 to 2030 offers a bold and comprehensive roadmap for the sustainable development of tourism that celebrates rather than exploits the natural world.
I have great respect for the Orange River. It seems quite sometimes, but there's places where it is quite deep. It is very important for South Africa and Namibia to work together, especially with our trips, with our kayaking trips. One night we sleep on the South African side, the other night on the Namibian side, just for the clients to experience the collaboration of two countries and to be in both countries at once.
If we make it easy for people to move freely, then we are guaranteed of more business. We are guaranteed of bettering our economy. I think the people, when they see the falls for the first time, they feel like they are in some very special place. And indeed, they are at a special place.
Across Southern Africa, TFCAs are proving that borders don't have to divide nature and people. But the creation of TFCAs is not without its challenges. However, through incredible collaborative efforts, we have turned these into immense successes. The Kgalagadi Transfrontier Park, straddling Botswana and South Africa, became the world's first transfrontier park in 1999, with seamless movement of tourists within the landscape. It set the stage for others to follow, boosting wildlife movement and tourism across national boundaries. Lubombo TFCA, shared between Eswatini, Mozambique and South Africa, includes the first marine TFCA in Africa. These marine protected areas within TFCAs play a vital role in conserving ocean biodiversity and supporting the livelihoods of coastal communities. In the Great Limpopo TFCA, stretching across Mozambique, South Africa and Zimbabwe, elephant migration routes have been restored, and efforts to ease tourist border crossings are gaining traction. The Kavango Zambezi TFCA, the world's largest terrestrial TFCA with the largest contiguous population of elephants. The Univisa allows easier access for travel, and a new birding route is drawing eco-tourists from around the globe. Between Namibia and South Africa, the Richtersveld TFCA celebrates desert biodiversity and indigenous heritage with a new botanical garden that opened in 2024. The Greater Mapungubwe TFCA, shared by Botswana, Zimbabwe and South Africa, safeguards critical wildlife corridors and protects one of the richest archaeological landscapes in Africa. The Maloti Drakensberg TFCA, shared between Lesotho and South Africa, with its cross-border mountain heritage attracting adventure tourists from across the globe. Up the coast, the Iona Skeleton Coast TFCA linking Angola and Namibia is seeing signs of ecological recovery. Niassa Salu TFCA, shared between Tanzania and Mozambique, is the second largest in the SADC region, protecting the largest contiguous populations of lion and wild dog. And the momentum continues. New treaties are paving the way for future conservation linkages, like the Lower Zambezi Mana Pools and Zimoza TFCAs signed between 2023 and 2024. The SADC TFCAs, together with their long-standing partners, continue to stand as beacons of hope for international cooperation, conservation excellence, and community empowerment. Yet the survival of these wild sanctuaries is not guaranteed. They remain under constant threat from climate change, human encroachment, and short-term economic pressures. Protecting these irreplaceable landscapes, where the earth still breathes with ancient rhythms and rains, is a race against time, a call to cherish.
Pause the video. Thank you very much. So one issue I want to mention to you as I open this meeting is that Zimbabwe really takes pride in having hosted this event. And this video, of course, you have access to it. One of the significant events which happened during this TFCA conference and summit was, of course, the launch of the TFCA website, which is actually the tfcaportal.org, where you can access a number of resources and also important reference documents. It's really a melting pot for TFCA information. And for the sake of our time, I apologize that I will not be able to make you watch the whole video, but I'm sure you have seen a snapshot of the journey of TFCA since inception or establishment of the Kalahari Transfrontier Park, and a bit of the highlights of the milestones that have been achieved. And of course, there are a number of opportunities that we are still to explore and unlock, and a lot was shared during this conference and summit. I would not want to preempt anything that we have requested the Secretariat to share with us as this event unfolds. But I think what's important to just be mindful of is that we need to look at TFCAs beyond just being a regional initiative that is facilitating and assisting member states to achieve multiple core benefits and other objectives, higher level, in line with various multilateral environmental agreements for both marine, terrestrial, and freshwater ecosystems that we need to pass on to the next generation, and also making sure that some new opportunities within the various objectives, including the Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework with its 23 targets that member states to the CBD seek to achieve by 2030, and also the 4 goals that we need to achieve by 2050, having that vision of people living in harmony with nature, and TFCAs being the catalyst that enables the region to achieve its indicative strategic development plan, even implementation of the SADC law enforcement and poaching strategy, implementation or unlocking the potential that is in the SADC wildlife economy strategy. I can mention a few. There's a lot that is in store for you and to reflect. And we would want also to have your reflections so that we are able to look back and see. We had some specific objectives for this TFCA summit and conference, and we want to know if we achieved those objectives. I want to give back this opportunity to the Secretariat and colleagues. Continue introducing yourselves in the chat box so that we know who has joined us on online, and the Secretariat and our network coordinator will be taking note of your presence here. So over to you, Secretariat, so that we can have a report back or an overview of the outcomes of the conference and also the heads of state summit. Column.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prof. Patience, and good afternoon to colleagues. And maybe not many know me. I am the new SADC TFCA advisor here at the Secretariat. And I'm very happy to be joining this network, and I'm also working closely with the network on a number of issues. And thanks so much, Prof. Patience. The issues that you have highlighted, that TFCAs are about people, TFCAs are about collaboration, TFCAs are about working together, is exactly what the heads of states, is exactly what our ministers were alluding to, and we're also making decisions around. And basically today, we'll be talking around the decisions which the ministers were made and decided or mandated the member states to work on or do. Must also say, appreciating that the decisions which the ministers alluded to or wanted member states to work on are not new things. These are decisions on things that are on activities that member states and the networks are already working on, and it is more or less an issue about strengthening activities that are already happening on the ground. But thanks so much, Prof. Patience. Most of my discussions or most of my talking points really dovetails with the issues that you have highlighted. If I may ask Rolly to move to the next slide, please.
Thank you. As you are proceeding to the next slide, I should have introduced you nicely, but the challenge is that Column is not new to the TFCA network, as he was serving member states in the Kavango Zambezi transfrontier conservation area, and he's been around for a long time. My apologies for that, but you made a fantastic introduction of yourself. Please proceed.
So thanks so much, Prof. Sorry, something is coming up here. So in terms of how I wanted to present, I really wanted to highlight that the summit itself was a success. And as was alluded by Professor Gandiwa there, it was actually around celebrating the 25-year milestone on the existence of the TFCAs. I also wanted to highlight that it is important to also reflect on who participated at the summit. Of course, the heads of states were the key participants at the summit. The ministers of environment and other ministers were also present, different government agencies. I wouldn't want to limit them to the ministers responsible for wildlife authorities or forestry authorities, but really they were quite a diverse cross-sectorial presence of different agencies and ministers. Our international cooperating partners were also there, CBOs, community leaderships, and representation from TFCA. So we are very happy that we had really a composite presence of different stakeholders, which I thought it actually enriched the participation and involvement at the summit. And I also thought it is also important to reflect why the summit matters or mattered to us as a network. I think because of the presence of the heads of state, who are our ultimate authorities, and also the presence of the ministers, our critical ICPs, the summit was actually a political platform that provided guidance through, you will see in my presentation, the different decisions, which I shall also were coined around the communique of the heads of state at that same summit. So with the decisions coming from the heads of state, we are obviously mandated to then work around and ensure that those decisions are looked into and also acted upon. So actually, it is very key, it is very important that we had and we have decisions that came out of the summit, which we are compelled to work and achieve some of those, or all of those, which we were mandated by the ministers at the summit. Rolly, you can move to the next slide, please. So again, I think I've highlighted this in terms of the objectives. It is just to inform the network of the key decisions that came out of the summit. And those decisions, like I said, they will assist us in mobilizing more support and enhancing coordinated actions, not only speaking to our TFCA program, but also speaking to the mandate that we were given at the Heads of State Summit through the decisions of the ministers. You can go ahead, Rolly, please. So my approach is such that what you are seeing there, those are word for word decisions that came up from the ministers' meeting. Don't mind the red coloration there, it was just to show the differences in terms of what we are mandated to do as member states. And when I'm saying as member states there, I also mean the different agencies that are involved, that we are working together with in the TFCA space. So everyone in the network is part of the member states in that respect. So in terms of the decisions there, I am not going to read out word for word. So what I have done is to just summarize each and every of the decisions and tried to pitch each and every of the decision in terms of the expectations for the network. And the first decision there relates to the implementation of the SADC TFCA network. I think even Prof. Patience mentioned that we have got a 10-year blueprint document or strategic document that we are working with, that we are using in determining the activities of our TFCAs. And ministers, even heads of states, they recognize this document, and the ministers actually urged us to prioritize the activities that are highlighted in that document in terms of programming and in terms of achieving the set goals. So this is actually a guiding framework for us that I think every one of us have. If we don't have, we have the documents here in hard and soft copies, which we can share. And this network is actually instrumental in translating this vision, the vision which is highlighted in our programming, into concrete actions on the ground. So our plea is for the network to align our strategies and initiatives as outlined in the program with the decisions of the heads of states as well. So this is one of the decisions which the outlined and alluded us to really take into consideration, which is to ensure that we prioritize and we work through the TFCA program. So we can go to the second decision, Rolly. Yes, the second decision, it talks about the improving the well-being of rural and rural livelihoods in our TFCAs, recognizing that we have communities in the TFCAs and the decisions from the ministers there is that we should actually strengthen partnerships to reduce rural poverty in our different spaces, in our different capabilities and experiences, and working with communities. Ministers really wanted us to ensure that we strengthen partnerships to really alleviate poverty in the areas that we are serving. And also in our activities to also ensure that we integrate rural development and support in our programming. I think in the same vein, for all that to happen, we really need to also mobilize resources to ensure that basic services are provided for the communities in our TFCAs. Basic services here, I mean, we can't work with communities who are not health. We can't work with communities who are lacking basic education. So all that wholesomely gives a platform for communities to function properly. And ministers also alluded to that as a key component in terms of advancing community livelihoods. So this, we are recognizing that livelihoods of communities are at the heart of conservation, and us as the network, we should also target our programming around uplifting the livelihoods of communities, also while conserving biodiversity. So in essence, the network can also facilitate programming and activities and projects within the framework of improving the livelihoods of communities. Rolly, we can move to the other decision. Yes, the third decision there is on transboundary biodiversity management. I think this is one of the cores in terms of our programming, in terms of the activities of TFCAs. And ministers recognize that there are different laws, there are different management styles across landscapes, but they also were appealing for member states to harmonize laws, to harmonize management practices so that no one across the landscapes is left behind. So issues to do with strengthening of joint research, strengthening of monitoring, strengthening of capacity building. I know there are issues around rhino populations, rhino movement, rhino and elephant product trafficking. All those constitute some of the issues which the ministers really wanted the network and member states to really work on. And in the same vein as well, to also support and assist in the development of regional databases, regional biodiversity practices, and standard operating procedures that speaks to transboundary biodiversity management. And just also to further reiterate that these are not new things, these are activities that we are already working on, but we are urged to really further strengthen how we are working around these matters. Rolly, we go to marine transboundary conservation. Thank you. Yes, and thanks to the video, it highlighted that we have one marine biodiversity, marine TFCA, I think it's the Lubombo TFCA. Unfortunately, I think in this front, in terms of marine biodiversity conservation, it was actually noted and flagged that not much has been done in terms of establishing these TFCAs, and the ministers actually urged and mandated specifically the SADC Secretariat to promote the establishment of these marine TFCAs, and also to look into how we can develop mechanisms for the governance of these TFCAs. And I'm happy to say we at the Secretariat, we are at some stages in terms of engaging with coastal and marine member states for the development of those TFCAs. So there is work in progress around that matter. Rolly, we move to decision number 5, which relates to law enforcement and anti-poaching strategy. Again, in terms of law enforcement and anti-poaching strategy, the realization was that a good number of member states have adopted and domesticated the LEAP strategy, but there are still others who are still outstanding in terms of domestication. So the decision there was that we really need, as member states, to finalize the adoption of the LEAP strategy, to also enhance coordination of anti-poaching operations across boundaries. This is happening, we know, but again, the matter is really to strengthen activities that are happening on the ground, and also to build law enforcement capacity across different TFCA landscapes. So my thinking around this is that probably from the minister's point of view, they have noticed or they have observed differences in terms of the level at which different TFCAs or different member states are at in terms of law enforcement capacities and capabilities and managing crimes around or within landscape. So we are really encouraged as member states to really strengthen our law enforcement efforts. And this will happen with the support of our international cooperating partners, different stakeholders, and everybody related to activities in the landscapes. Again, decision number 6, Rolly, it's relating to institutionalization of the law enforcement strategy. It's very closely related to decision number 6, with decision number 5 rather, with a thin line in terms of the differences. Required here is that we need really to strengthen multi-sectorial collaboration, not only working as mainstream law enforcement agencies. We have other agencies that are critical in this respect. I can think of the customs, the immigration, police, parks, wildlife, all those working together is what the ministers were encouraging. And also for member states to try and mainstream LEAP activities in national budgets and policies as well. And really to also ensure that in our engagements, we also interact and involve regional bodies, regional law enforcement bodies, such as Interpol, such as United Nations Office of Drugs and Security, as critical in ensuring that law enforcement activities are effective on the ground. We go to decision number 7, Rolly. So decision number 7, which was the last decision from the ministers, it talks about increasing tourism and business investments in TFCAs. And we are encouraged as member states to develop TFCA targeted tourism development plans. These might be there, but possibly there are areas where these are not available. We are also encouraged to align our tourism plans with national investment priorities and also integration of our plans with biodiversity conservation and rural development. Yes, those are the decisions. Rolly, you can move to the next slide. So through these decisions, what do they really mean to the TFCA network? In terms of, I tried to differentiate in terms of opportunities and also in terms of responsibilities or challenges. So in terms of opportunities, we have realized that there is greater political traction for TFCA activities as exemplified or highlighted through the presence and also through the communique of the heads of state at the summit. We also have support for increased access to national, regional, or international funding. We saw this at the summit. There were a number of funding agreements that we signed. If I recall very closely, there was KFW signing support documents for TFCAs with IUCN and SADC Secretariat. And if I also recall, the EU came also on board with similar funding support for TFCAs. And again, we are encouraged that there is need for enhanced cross-border cooperation and regional integration in terms of conservation goals. This actually came out through the different side events, the different panel discussions that we held at the conference, and as well also encouraged through the decisions of the ministers. Where we also feel and thought we have challenges is largely around reporting and monitoring these activities. And we also want to tap from this network in terms of how that can be done better. Yes, that is being done by member states, but really we also need to understand or get some insights in terms of how can we better report these issues, not only to the Secretariat, but also reporting these issues amongst ourselves. And also the need for alignment of national TFCA efforts with regional priorities. Yes, in each and every member state, we have got our own national priorities, and how then can we work with those and work with them with other member states that we are collaborating into the TFCA landscapes. So where we have differences, how can we provide or make policies that makes things work together? And this was also an encouragement from the ministers. And really the issue of harmonization of policies, harmonization of ways of doing things, which really looks into development of standard operating procedures on our ways of operation, is also something that we really need to look closely into and develop as we progress with our activities. Rolly, we can move to the next. So what is our role as a network going forward in response of the minister's decision. I think the first one relates to coordination. We really need to coordinate our activities, really linking them closely with the resolutions by the ministers. And if we don't have these resolutions, we have signed copies of them, which we will also share maybe as soon as we finish this meeting if we don't have them. And as well, going forward, I think we also need to enhance engagement. We need to enhance engagement with member states. We need to enhance engagement with local TFCA structures and to really enhance engagement amongst ourselves. And I know as a TFCA network, a lot of engagements are happening, but probably there is that need to further enhance maybe institution to institution, and that kind of a high-level engagement is still required. In terms of support, remember I highlighted that we might be having other TFCAs maybe that are lagging behind the others. So we need really to provide technical support and assistance in terms of implementing these required outcomes or these decisions that we are required to do by the ministers. Rolly, you can move to the next. I was done with my presentation. Then I just thought we need to have this as a parting shot. The decisions made at the summit really opens new doors for our work, but it is up to us as a network to transform a commitment into action. So I think this really sums all what the decisions are and how we can really work as a network around those decisions. I think this is the end of my presentation. Let's check if there is another. Yes, this is the end. Thanks, Prof. This is what I really had to report back in terms of the decisions. I couldn't do word for word of it, but basically this sums up how the decisions, the narrative of the decisions is for us as a network and also for us as member states. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kolam, our TFCA coordinator at SADC Secretariat, for that very detailed overview of the outcomes and more specifically also the specific decisions that came out that were made by our principals during the 25th anniversary of the SADC TFCA network. Of course, there's so much more that happened also inside events, a lot more that happened in the corridors, some reunions, and also even some signing of important agreements for financing. Also, we witnessed Zimbabwe joining the Raptors MOU family, which is a daughter instrument under the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. I know you have a lot to share as a network, as members, because many of you were there. Now is the time for just some reflections, or if you've got any specific questions, or if you want to mention any specific outcome that you feel maybe Kolam left out. Obviously, there is a report which is very detailed, which is accessible. If you check our chat box, you will see that. Secretariat, you assist me with checking people's hands. Yeah, if there's anybody with their hand up, I might miss them. So is there anyone with some specific question or reflection? Is there anyone who wants to say something? Is there anyone with a hand up? Can you unmute? Because I can't see the hands. If not, I'm going to ask you questions myself.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think, Kolam, you really put it very nicely across in terms of what's the network. I like that last slide to say, yes, we have celebrated this 25 years since the first TFCA was formalized. So what is it that we can anticipate or that we can do as a network, given these significant milestones, including political reaffirmation by our leadership to the TFCA program? You mentioned coordination. Obviously, without coordination, given the complexity of TFCAs, it becomes very, very difficult. And also the need for us to engage further and, to broaden the network and also bringing some new voices to the discussion table, as TFCAs are actually arguably everyone's business. There is no single industry or entity that we can think of that is not relevant for the advancement of the TFCA agenda as a conservation and development initiative. You mentioned of support. Yes, very, very important, and support in the broadest possible sense. I would add facilitation, socialization of the outcomes, and also, of course, mobilization of the resources necessary to bring some of the commitments and decisions adopted by our leadership and suggestions that came from various discussions into action. I see a hand from Deborah. Deborah, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Patience and colleagues. I'm glad to see you in this, to link up with you in this important brief. For me, I don't have any questions. I don't have any reflection. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend the summit, which is very unfortunate, but due to many reasons, I was not able to attend. So I'm joining today on a personal capacity as a TFCA network member, one of the dinosaurs from the time when TFCAs were being conceived, so many, many years ago. For me, it's just to mention that I'm quite excited to see that this milestone has been achieved. It was long-term coming. We've been planning it for a long, long time. Those people who have been working for a long time in the TFCA, you can remember when the discussion we started discussing about having a summit, having this and that, but eventually it came to fruition. I think this is very, very exciting. It is also a sentiment showing that as a TFCA family, we are committed to what we are doing. Our work is very important, and it has also enabled to reach the highest offices in our country. And this is an evidence that we can be able to garner support from the very high offices from our governments in the member states. So for me, it's just to say congratulations to the team that has made this possible, and also to our governments for buying into this concept and to support us in the TFCA movement. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deborah. And of course, we really managed to have to make the TFCA agenda a presidential matter. And the number of heads of states that attended, I think that was really a very important signal for our region. So without wasting much time, I would want us to move to the next item on the agenda. When you think of a question, please feel free to put it on the chat box. We can always reflect and revisit that. Right now, I would want to invite a colleague from the Sustainable Finance Coalition, Miriam, to give us some outcomes of the SADC TFCA conference and summit celebrating 25 years of conservation and sustainable socioeconomic development. So we would want her, Miriam, to give us some reflections also and some highlights of on sustainable finance community of practice.
Thank you, Patience. Hello, everyone. I'm going to jump straight into it. So my name is Mariam. I'm the Sustainable Finance Coordinator for TFCAs. I joined the GIZ program and this line of work end of the Q1 of this year. I attended in person the summit and the international conference, so it was good to see people in person and to speak with all of you in person. During the summit and the international conference, we had the opportunity to run a few sessions in the plenary room, but also a boot camp as a side event during one afternoon. Next slide, please. So I'm going to share with you 4 things. First, a few insights from the boot camp. I'm going to challenge you to think on the community of practice and what is it and do we need one for sustainable finance within the TFCA's space, and then what should we as a community of practice going forward do together, what should be our priorities. Next slide, please. So we had a lot of participants in the bootcamp. It was a full room of 120 plus people from different institutions, different backgrounds, different work environments. But that word of finance, financial financing, keep coming up. But around that word of financing, there are important nuances that people are capturing. Bankable projects, understanding how to do things, how to set up a project, how to model, how to build, how to understand what is a solution, and so on and so forth. So there was not only availability and interest in terms of numbers, there was also a lot of demand for content. And that is what was coming out of the bootcamp. Next slide, please. So as I said, we had a lot of participants from the TFCAs naturally, more prominently, but we also had NGOs, governments, academia, climate finance professionals, and consultants and other people working in the intersection of ESG. What came out clearly from the bootcamp, this was a 4-hour bootcamp where we took people to Sustainable Finance 101. We then deep dived into 3 case studies. We looked into biodiversity credits. We looked into insurance for human-wildlife conflict mitigation. And we looked at enhanced conservation trust funds. And then we came back together for discussions on those examples that were explored in groups. So what came out of those discussions is that people are familiar with finance in general. They are less familiar with sustainable finance, and they are even less familiar with the mechanics of sustainable finance. And that level of familiarity on the topic of sustainable finance affects their level of confidence on advancing and applying finance in their landscapes. So there was high demand, high interest and high demand to advance on the how-to. Instead of just explaining conceptually or theoretically, people want hands-on experience on how to unlock that flow of funds through different finance solutions. There are competing challenges from lack of diversified funding sources, lack of predictability through long-term financing opportunities, how to use and apply finance tools, how to articulate an investment case or even draft an investment case that is considered by outsiders as bankable and investable. How do you prepare your institutions to be ready for those investments? And then how do you coordinate the variety of voices to be able to advance those solutions successfully over time? And this is where, next slide please, comes the community of practice. End of last year, the TFCA network approved TORs for the establishment of a community of practice. We will share it by email after this call, after this webinar. And that community of practice basically is informal group where peers from different peers in the sense that we belong to the community of TFCAs in SADC, but that we have some sort of interest around finance, namely sustainable finance. It might be a concern, it might be a preoccupation, it can be a passion if it's a practitioner, it can be an interest to solve a problem in finance, where people are coming together to solve discuss, learn, create community, share practices, and continue learning peer-to-peer. And that's the objective of a community of practice. And how is it spelled out in the TORs that were approved by the steering group? Next slide, please. So I did this provocation and saying, do we need a sustainable finance community of practice? We've been mandated to advance one, and there are formal TORs endorsed at the steering group level. But I think the numbers speak for themselves in the sense that, you know, there's a combination of issues that collectively we as TFCAs can tap into to close the finance gap for nature. So what are the opportunities? How do we go about it? Are we just going to discuss resource mobilization? Are we just going to discuss incentives? Are we going to discuss efficiency? Are we just going to go into innovative financing and sustainable finance? And we all know that for each TFCA, it's not a choice between one and the other. It's how do you build a portfolio using all of these options to unlock the flow of funds in terms of quantity, quality, and predictability over time for you to be able to deliver on your objectives. So in short, what I'm trying to say is the needs are so big, the opportunities are increasing. I think the community of practice is needed to be able to allow us to create enabling environment to access those resources. Next slide, please. So it's important that we work together in that community spirit to find the right keys to open the right doors for the TFCAs. Next slide, please. You, at this moment, I think everyone now knows by heart the finance model of the Sustainable Finance Coalition, and everyone knows that we use this three-step model of find, design, and mobilize finance solutions. This is where we can use the community of practice to deep dive into this, into the find, the design, and the mobilize, all the tools, all the processes, and all the opportunities that come with that. Next slide, please. You can advance, please. This is just the detailing of the model. So thank you. And this is where I would park my presentation and ask you what should be, since the TORs have been formally approved and endorsed, what should be our first community of practice priority? Which formats would add more value for us to meet and exchange? And what can you contribute to this community of practice, both individually and as organization? To start those discussions, I started a WhatsApp group. At the moment, it's just me there, but please go to the QR code and please join the group. You are entering into the community of practice, either to learn, either to exchange, either to teach, either to be exposed, whatever is the motivation. But we would like now to start meeting and regularly exchanging and having the community of practice taking shape. We need people in the group, the organizers, the mobilizers, but we also need participation so we can have those meaningful conversations anchored in the realities of the TFCAs. This is where I stop, and yeah, thank you, patience, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mariam. And just to put it on record, you are no longer alone in that WhatsApp group. The chair has just joined. So I think we're already making progress. There you have it, colleagues. This boot camp, I think it was one of the very important features and events which was really quite immersive during this conference and summit. And I think there was a lot which we learned about financing. And as Mariam put it in her own words, understanding the mechanics of sustainable financing, and of course some of the areas of interest in terms of how to operationalize, having knowledge of the apparatus and what's required, and knowing about a sustainable financing or potential financing stream is one thing, but knowing how to make it work and putting it together, I think there's a lot of learning that is needed there. And I think we got a bit about what is this community of practice all about. And I think at the end of the day, we all know we do have a global gap in terms of financing nature. And at regional level also within SADC TFCAs, for us to achieve our biodiversity strategy and action plan at regional level, it has got a budget and we have to find the money, and the TFCAs are innovative spaces and landscapes that can assist our member states to achieve those objectives. Any quick reflections, colleagues, from this presentation on the community of practice?
Maybe just from my side, Patience, I think, one of the reason why we included this in the webinar is it was one of the clear calls by the heads of state that we do need to find ways in which we develop these sustainable financing models. The withdrawal of US aid and the impact, for example, of COVID on tourism shows how vulnerable conservation work is to foreign funding. And we need to find a way that we aren't left vulnerable by that. So if everyone agrees TFCAs are a really good mechanism for coordinating conservation work across boundaries, we need to find ways at which we resource that work. If we don't have the resources to do the work, then the work can't happen. And member states will always struggle to put money into joint coordination work. Whereas if we can find these independent mechanisms, which the member states agree on as viable, then I think it is the way to go. So it remains one of the key challenges going forward, and hence we are doing this work. And hence I think you saw the interest at the summit.
Thank you very much, Steve, certainly. And Candice really gave a fantastic talk and also presentation, and contributed to various side events. Any other reflection points on this very important topic?
Thank you,
Patience, there was
Chair,
a question in the... Oh, sorry, carry on.
Okay, Chair, can I come in?
Yes, Professor Neva Muboko.
Thank you very much. I would like to thank Mariam for the presentation on sustainable financing. I think it's quite an important arm for this network, but therefore we need to continue maybe interacting and also sharing ideas. Particularly, I was thinking about how is this resourced in terms of how do we gather the funds, and what are the available funding models, because as you are aware that during the summit there was a lot of talk about a number of issues, including community engagement, and therefore in terms of engagement we would like to mobilize resources which are financial in nature, so that all the projects that will be planned can be financed and financed sustainably. One of the issues that was actually discussed was the issue of the, if there's funding, particularly the funding mechanisms that we have experienced before, they will be having a shorter period. The extent that by the time the funder moves out of the project area, you find that the project will then collapse. Therefore, I liked the issue of sustainable funding, which means to say that there is need to continuously empower the communities or programs that are there. So my issue is that we would need to continue sharing on this, and also know how we can resource the communities, and how we can mobilize the resources, and what will be the types of funding that we expect, and how do we tap into those funds. I think this is one of the issues that was raised in a certain forum where participants were particular about how to tap into the funds that will be available. So the mechanisms have to be shared continuously and so that more people will be involved. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. For those, I will take them as reflections. As if I give Miriam an opportunity to respond, this is a very interesting topic, but I think I hear the synergy of minds that this is a very important topic, and I'm sure as you put your hand down, you are already scanning the QR code to join this community of practice so that together we can be able to find what's workable for SADC TFCAs and what priorities can we start with, and what is it that you can also bring to this community of practice and explore all issues about innovative financing and sustainable financing. I'll take one more question. There was Nkomo. I saw some hand and I think it disappeared. I don't see that hand.
Yes, I had a question, but someone asked it in the chat and it wasn't exactly about the financing. It was just about in general. So I can ask it later.
Okay. That's really great. So obviously, and it's good that there was acknowledgement even from our ministers, the heads of state, that this work requires financing, and it's not a cheap enterprise. It's such an expensive endeavor. And the question is, given what Steve has just commented, that the changing finance landscape around the world and, changes in terms of priorities of some of the donor countries that have been traditionally supporting these initiatives, because of, other security related, priorities and some conflicts happening around the world. How can we still achieve our TFCA objectives, and what can we do as a network to innovate in that space? So there's a lot to discuss, and there's a lot to share. I will pack it here, and I encourage you, colleagues, to join this WhatsApp group and continue with the conversation. On that note, let me request Dave to share with us what he has in terms of other potential areas that we can also pay attention to. And this is not just coming up here now. Dave attended also the TFCA conference and summit, and also made a very great presentation. And it's good to actually see what some of the recommendations that came out of there, and what prospects can we expect as far as one of our very important species occurring in our TFCA is the rhino. How the specialist group at both international and also regional level is planning to really make some important steps and revive what was occurring before and how things were happening. Dave, the floor is yours to share with us.
Patience, thank you very much. And thank you everyone for being here. It's great to have so many on the call, well, not call, the webinar. I'm going to take you back a little step. I'm not part of the formal leadership of the TFCA. I'm approaching this from the outside in the sense that I'm representing the African Rhino Specialist Group of the IUCN, as Patience mentioned. And I'm not, next slide, please. Sorry, I'm busy trying to change it myself. Just very, very quickly, and I think it's important for those of you who don't know, the IUCN has an executive leadership. Under that, it has a whole lot of commissions. Under that, it has specialist groups. And the specialist groups are made up of volunteers. I just want this to be clear to the webinar. And in the case of the African Rhino Specialist Group, the volunteer members come from all African Rhino Range states which have rhinos as part of their indigenous range. So I'm representing a group of specialists around rhinos who come from Africa. Next slide, please. And what we try to do at the top there, you'll see thriving wild rhinos valued by people and contributing to their well-being. That's our mission statement. The mission statement is broken down into different components. So there's a component which is about thriving people. It's essential that when you're managing rhinos, they're not seen in isolation. We've just heard about the financing. Obviously, the rhinos need to thrive. And then there are other opportunities about knowledge exchange, learning, sharing, etc. So it's a very broad suite of activities that we try to approach. Next slide, please. Sorry, I'm rushing because I realized I've got a bit to get through. Very recently, earlier this year, in fact, a framework for thinking about how rhinos might best be conserved in Africa was put out by the IUCN African Rhino Specialist Group. And you'll see that in this, we've tried to be very values-based. So harness these human values that deliver outcomes that are positive for rhinos and people, but also very evidence-based. So trying to ensure that there's a scientific backing to the kind of guidance we give that we feel is very important. And then the last thing is, when you're cultivating collaboration, it's important for us as a group not to favor any one particular group, but to try and ensure effective collaboration through what we've termed their neutral identity. That I know that term sometimes gets questioned, but it's the approach we take. In the video that will be hopefully available afterwards, the access to this conservation framework is in a link up top here. I encourage anyone who's interested to go and take a look. Next slide, please. One of the things I really wanted to emphasize and why this webinar and why the whole TFCA and indeed the SADC initiatives and processes are so important is we understand that where partnerships take place, things work out better. In this particular slide that I'm showing you, on the right-hand side where the gray bars are below the line, that's where state conservation has tried on its own and struggled to succeed. Whereas very often other parties may have succeeded. If you move to the left of that line, you'll see that where there are partnerships between the state and the private, the conservation outcome is better. And so the ideas of collaboration, cooperation between different states and between states and other actors is what we're trying to advance through this initiative that I'm going to start talking to you now. Next slide, please. Rolly, next slide, please. Thank you. So my participation in the summit in Harare was driven by the African Rhino Specialist Group, and it was an attempt to engage the membership and to build support for strengthening and promoting regional coordination and collaboration, and within that, to promote regional metapopulation management for both black and white rhinos. Next slide, please. The bold line at the top there, I said, set out to revive the SADC regional initiative from 2000. So between 2000 and 2007, there was a very effective SADC program, which was about regional SADC coordination of rhino management and advancing collaboration between member states. Of course, sorry, the funding for that ran out around about 2007. And although it hasn't been actively funded in the interim, member states do engage, they do talk to each other. So the TFCA program is a fantastic opportunity for that and good examples. But what we were trying to do is to try and rebuild support in the way that a small group would go out and seek funding and try and get the coordination and collaboration actively working and part of a formal program. So, as I said, TFCA is a very powerful local conservation mechanism for achieving this. We think it would help leverage the benefits of many of the partnerships that can take place. There are long-standing protected areas with very active state participation, and both species of rhinos are indigenous to this region. So it seems like a fantastic opportunity to rebuild that momentum. Next slide, please. What did we achieve? Well, through talking to individuals from member states, it was very, very encouraging to realize the level of support that was there. As we heard earlier in our report back from Colin, the matter did get onto the minister's briefing, and there seems to be a strong support for it. But it's not, at this stage, to me anyway, 100% clear how it's going to move forward. So I guess we're at that cutting edge of these ideas taking traction. I think it's a real testament to the leadership within the TFCA and the SADC communities that this idea has been taken seriously. And so I, through the specialist group, intend to continue engaging with wildlife technical committees to try and find a way to support this program going forward. Next slide, please. Patience, I see you've come back on, so I won't be much longer. So we're going to be building the support with countries that we know, Zimbabwe, for example, Namibia, Botswana. Countries are expressing the support. I think it's just we need the catalyzing energy to take it forward. And I think it's the last slide now, please. That's it, yeah. Thank you very much, and I'll hand back to you, Patience.
Thank you very much, Dave, for that presentation and taking us through and also giving a very succinct summary of what it used to be like and what we can do and the opportunities that we can explore in that regard. Dear colleagues, is there anyone who wants to share some quick reflections as far as this presentation is concerned? Secretary, kindly assist the chair to check if anybody's hand is up so that I don't miss.
Patience, maybe I could ask Dave. I suppose the question for me would be, I mean, one of the reasons we included this once again was that it was raised at the summit, would be if members want to engage, can they reach out to you? Is it purely through the membership system that people can be part of this, or how could they be part of this specialist group, so to speak?
So thanks very much, Steve. And if I can respond to that, the idea is from the specialist group side to be catalytic and perhaps even supportive in the sense of supporting writing proposals, etc. But ultimately, the 2000 to 2006 program worked so well because it was embedded within SADC. It was a SADC program. And so how it gets adopted and taken up by SADC is at this stage a little bit above my pay grade. I'm feeling my way into it. and trying to be supportive to the extent that we can. I know that there are separate initiatives, for example, by the IUCN East African community and GIZ as well, to catalyze plans around metapopulation management. So I think there may even be a slightly broader set of initiatives, and I'm feeling my way into understanding how to work with them. I'll take guidance from people on this call.
Thank you very much, Steve, for that question, and also Dave for the response to that. Do we have any further reflections, colleagues? Whilst you're thinking about that, keep using our chat box. I wish to acknowledge your presentation and also recommendations, also even the questions that you have asked, Dave. And I think within the institutional infrastructure of SADC, this obviously would fall under the ambit of the Technical Committee on Wildlife, maybe to make such decisions so that member states can actually have some mandate, or at least kickstarting the process and making sure there are synergies with other ongoing processes and efforts, such as the joint working group on wildlife, which was established, and also obviously with other multiple tentacles into various strategies, including species conservation, etc. So I think it's really quite a noble idea, and we need to work together, the rhino range states within the region. It's one thing to have a global forum where rhino issues are discussed, but it's a unique opportunity when we can also look at SADC level what we can do better for our rhinos to improve the genetics, growing the range and growing the population, and also addressing the threats, including poaching, in line with the aspirations we already have as per our blueprint, the SADC law enforcement and anti-poaching strategy. And I think when we do that, that could also attract some resources, because we'll be synergizing our approach. Don't tire for now. And I also recommend that let's take up this discussion also for those colleagues that will be attending the IUCN Congress in Abu Dhabi. I think it's 9 to 15 October. I'm sure there's a dedicated forum on species conservation and their contribution to the global biodiversity framework, because we do have species-specific targets, etc. So I think let's keep this conversation alive, and maybe to Secretariat for consideration, maybe at the next Technical Committee on Wildlife, and maybe engage with the incoming chair, who is Madagascar, so that we can make some inroads in terms of reviving this regional forum, and also the justification thereof, so that we don't just see institutions, but also the commitment to it. So, colleagues, is there anyone else who wants to say something? You can unmute, because I'm not seeing people's hands. Okay.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else who wishes to say something before we bring this meeting to a closure?
Yes, Chair. This is Edson, of course, from Zimbabwe. Just to appreciate the great presentations and also the reflections which has also given us a very nice, feedback from the very, interesting and also key matters of our attention. So perhaps what we may, in terms of our way forward, it would be great if we track progress and also hear how the 13 TFCAs are pushing the agenda in terms of what the decisions came out. And so we would very much recommend that the conveners of this webinar could also consider having these periodic engagements where we may also focus on the TFCAs or get updates, particularly from even secretariat, those that have secretariats and also coordinators, just on how we are doing. But otherwise, very much, key issues have come through, and we are very much grateful for this event. I submit.
Thank you, Edson, for having joined us and for those reflections. I'm sure the Secretariat has taken note. So, Secretariat, do you have anything to say before I can bring this meeting to a closure?
Maybe I'll start, Steve. From SADC Secretariat, there is not much besides to say thank you very much to all who participated. And like Professor Edson has said, we will make an effort to ensure that we follow up with member states, we follow up even through the network in terms of the outcomes from the summit and how we are progressing in implementing and following through those actions. So try and make sure that we have that on top of our notes and ensure we follow through on them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, there are some decisions, commitments, resolutions, and policy imperatives that came out of this very important conference and summit. And the ball is in our court also. As the network, we are the driving force behind the TFCA program in Southern Africa. And it is up to us to make sure that we follow through those various commitments and decisions at various levels. And we become the torch bearers to attract various partners, some that have joined us on this call. Thank you very much. We never take your presence for granted. It's really an important signal that we are together, and various partners that extended their various support, financial, technical, and other support, which made this very important TFCA conference and summit a success. Without your support, we would not have had the opportunity or even the capacity to achieve what we achieved together. And there's so much more work after the summit than before the summit. So before I close, that was just to thank you and to acknowledge you. I want to give an opportunity to Steve to say something. Then I will make a few closing remarks.
Great, thank you. And before you do that, thank you, Patience, for facilitating this. It's just to announce that the next webinar will be on disaster risk reduction. One of the side events we held at the summit was how TFCAs can contribute to mitigating disasters such as floods, such as droughts, etc. So that'll be on the 23rd of September. Look out on the WhatsApp group for registration details or on the portal. But thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much, Steve. On behalf of the government of the Republic of Zimbabwe, I wish to thank you, dear colleagues, network members, cooperating partners, our secretariat, and a leadership that is here, also the academia and people from various backgrounds for being here and shaping the network to become the force that it has become, we cannot talk about the SADC TFCA network or transboundary cooperation for effective conservation of our wildlife resources without this network being relevant. Therefore, you are the people that make this network tick. Let us keep up the momentum. Let us explore these new and exciting initiatives. Let us innovate in sustainable financing and find ways, including homegrown solutions with the limited resources that we have to make conservation count and for wildlife and habitats to thrive together with people. And I also want to thank you in my own capacity as Patience Gandiwa for your support, as the host for this important conference, but also in my personal capacity for the confidence that you have always had in me, and which resulted, of course, in my nomination as chair for the African Group of Negotiators on Wildlife, really covering the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna CITES, and also the Convention on the Conservation of Migratory Species of Wild Animals. I think it's really not because I'm smart, but I think you see the passion, and I will, with your support, make sure that Africa does it better next time and in the future to change the current narrative forever. Thank you very much. I look forward to continue working with you in that regard, and also in this network, so that we can advance the wildlife conservation agenda together and in a more impactful way. So thanks, colleagues at the network. I wish to close this meeting. Let's meet again, and please know that this next webinar will be very important, especially ahead of the UNFCCC COP30. Cheers.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Prof.
Prof.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.